we'll quickly get started. Mr. Manager, let's go over the responses to council questions.
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet, you'll find a letter from me dated February 7th that includes the questions and responses from your last workshop. I'll just run through these quickly. On the Project Civic Access, that's the ADA compliance issue, the question was, is the timeline for Des Moines comparable to other cities? Essentially, the answer is yes. As far as we can tell, the period for completion of settlement agreements is typically about 3 years from the date of signature, and that's sort of what we're looking at as well. So there is comparability there in terms of the other cities that are going through the same process. Next question, will every city in Iowa face Project Civic Access? I don't think we can say that that's the case. We understand that cities and counties in Iowa may be invited to participate, but there's no way that we can tell for sure if they will or not.
Invited to participate.
Invited to participate, yeah, that's it. Okay, next question. What are the possible modifications at the golf course? Each of the golf courses will go through a compliance. The kind of things that are being looked at are parking, the provision of golf carts for persons who use wheelchairs and adjustments, to hardware in the restrooms. The requirements or the compliance period is between 6 and 30 months from the date of signature. The next question had to do with budget. What are the summary of projects by ward? You'll see attached to your letter a breakout of CIP projects by ward, and please do take a look at that. Let us know if you have questions about any of those. Next question, will the trigger to bond for projects be identified? The answer is yes. This stems from the fact that some of the projects in the CIP are funded with dollars other than your CIP dollars or GO bond dollars, and we make sure that those other dollars are in place before we actually ask you to consider the issuance of bonds. So that process, which we followed in recent years, will be followed again this year. Next question, can a report be provided to Council on the growing impact of assessment challenges? We're collecting that data right now. I don't have it for this meeting, but as soon as we get it together, we'll get it to you. Have there been follow-up conversations with the county on a partnership with fleet? Yes, there's ongoing conversations with both state and county fleet managers on that subject, so expect some gains there. And could a line be added about associated fees for property owners? This would be like sewer or water fees, I suppose, that would be added to our budget, so you see what the overall impact is on the property owner. Yes, that will be included in the budget document is the answer. And last but not least, what is the current fund balance? The current fund balance is $13,834,000. The key thing to look at there is whether or not the fund balance is growing or being maintained. In this case, it is. It is being maintained at about this number, slight increase over what we had last year. So generally, those are the responses. You had other questions about tax rates and related information. Some of that information is included in the budget presentation that we'll make in just a few minutes, Mr. Mayor, but that's the responses to questions.
Does anybody have any other questions at this time? Seeing none, let's go ahead and move on to the automated field reporting system.
Good morning, Mr. Manager, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Judy Bradshaw, the Chief of Police with the Des Moines Police Department. First, I want to say thanks for the opportunity to come here this morning and talk a little bit about some of the technology and equipment that you all have approved. Looks a lot different when you see it in a PowerPoint than just on that line item that you've approved on the City Council's agenda. This gives us an opportunity to talk about some of the technology that we are currently rolling out, but it also gives us a chance to highlight some of our key resources. Equipment is great and technology is fabulous, but our greatest resources really is our people. And John Newman is our director of our Police Technology Services. He's currently working on the automated field reporting. And basically, the way that we're doing police reports right now is we're writing them out by hand, and they're being scanned into our computer system. And I think we're probably one of the last police departments to still be doing this kind of police reporting. he's going to talk about how we're going to be able to computerize that. And that's really going to bring us into this century, if you will, as a police agency. So I'm going to have John talk a little bit about that. The second item that we're going to be talking about is the in-car video cameras. And although those aren't new to our police department, we currently have those in our traffic units because most of the activity and traffic stops are right in front of that car. We now have moved in and set aside the funds so that our patrol cars also have those cameras. And we'll let you know, and we'll kind of show you an example of what that technology looks like with the police car and how that's handled on patrol. And I have the commander of our patrol services here to talk about that. His name is Captain Steve Waymeyer. First, we're going to start out with the automated field reporting, and I'm going to have John Newman come up and address the council. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is John Newman. I'm going to quickly take you through the progression of our mobile data project and what the logical next step is and why it makes sense to be doing this now. And that's my agenda, the current status of mobile data, what is automated field reporting, what kinds of things do we have to have in place for automated field reporting, and then some conclusions that I hope we'll all agree with. So what is mobile data? Mobile data is a connection of computers in police and fire vehicles to dispatch, email, and business-related software applications. And I'll develop each of those points as we move along here. Who currently is using mobile data? We have it installed in 100 police vehicles and 36 fire vehicles, fully operational at this point in time. And what can they do currently in those vehicles? Well, the most important thing is dispatching events from our communication center. They have vehicle-to-vehicle messaging. We have an extensive dispatch map developed by the IT department. We write traffic accidents and citations. Our officers have full access to the internet for such things as CopLink, the county assessor, and city email. They can get to their own user folder that's housed on the city network, and we've also provided them with standardized forms. These forms are not automated, but they do provide a standardization of what do we need on a police report. That's the process that we're going to talk about that's going to move into automation. It's important to understand that behind every wireless connection, there's an awful lot of wires that make that connection. We have the capability of, from our police vehicles, of connecting through two networks. We have our own private 800 megahertz network that's been operational for about 4 years. And then we also have the city wireless network, 802.11. And what makes that such a robust network is the amount of fiber that the city has installed. And there are about 200 of these access points around the city where our officers can pull up to and get connection to the city network. So that it's a very effective piece of technology that makes what we want to do possible. Automated field reporting. What is it? Here's our definition of it. An officer writes investigative reports at the scene using dispatch data, record system data, and on-scene facts. A report can be electronically sent to command staff for approval and distribution. In other words, that report can be made immediately available to the entire police department. This is rather busy, but there are many things about automated field reporting that's important to the Des Moines Police Department. This project, while it has not started yet, we believe we can finish it within 18 months. Standard business rules for data input. I know that sounds like a lot of database lingo, but what it really means is a police report can be completed, but it must have certain things in it. And until those certain things are in it, it's not a completed report and won't be coming into our database. We eliminate handwritten reports. report legibility will become a thing of the past. A report is available sooner, immediately. And this next point is very important. The system works in a connected or occasionally connected mode, meaning they don't have to be at a hotspot. They can do their job, write the report, and then get to a city wireless connection and upload it to our database. Very important, they don't require network connectivity all the time, just occasionally. It's an electronic submission of reports, means it gets there faster, and we really hope to get to paperless casework. You've probably heard that sort of claim before, but we think we can do it. The ability to search our records management system, I'm going to give you a great deal more about that, but we have a robust records management system we've been using for about 5 years, and we've collected a lot of data in it. It's going to use the existing touchscreen technology that has been approved and exists in our 100 police vehicles. Viewing mugshots, very important concept, that an officer can see the person they're talking to. Is this the John Smith that he purports to be? What's that mugshot look like? And it doesn't have to be a mugshot. It could be any picture that's in our data file. We can query history of contacts. We can search and read the incidents already in the system and upgrade mobile for the fire department as well. So there's benefit for public safety in this operation. Next few slides, I just want to give you a flavor of what automated field reporting will look like in a squad car. The first screen is when they log onto the system. There are a series of buttons, and we can design these buttons, but this is what the officer is looking at. And you'll notice at the top there, right at the very top of the screen, it says dispatch and field reporting. Now there is the integration. Now when we have data that comes from our dispatch system, that becomes available for report writing. So the officer isn't having to capture this information twice. They get it one time. This is what an incident looks like when it's dispatched to the vehicle. Again, simplistic form, easy to read. The officer's eyes will go immediately to the red portion so that they know where they need to get to. At the top, they can acknowledge the dispatch. They can go en route. They can arrive and give us the time, and when they're cleared, they can give us the time. So we're going to have very precise metrics on each and every event. We can query FBI databases and state of Iowa databases to find out, what do we know about this person? What do we know about this vehicle? What do we know about this address? So that the officer is going into this event with as much information as we can possibly give to them. Police business doesn't allow you the luxury of always being able to go on an event, write a report, go on to another event, write a report, and so forth. What this allows us to do is to keep an open score sheet for each officer that's logged into the system to say, you have been on these reports or on these events, you owe us the following reports before your tour is over. So there's a working inventory. The officer knows the assignments they have to complete before they log out for the day. This is a very important management tool as well. Searching, typical database kinds of screens, and I'll develop what we're going to be searching in a minute or two. But again, the simplicity of the screen. They're using touchscreen technology with drop-down windows, which makes their ability to search very quick and precise. When the information comes back, it populates all the fields that we know data on. So again, the officer isn't having to look, well, I didn't get that or I didn't get that. They're going to know the information that was provided to them. And they will see that quickly in this search field and identify this is an active case. And these are the facts we know about that case. Again, terrific current information.
So with the dispatch, when they get the call, they'd start entering some of that information, so...
Yes, they have a lot of that information.
So they're the ones that really started...
They initiate it, yes, absolutely. When I indicated earlier, field reporting, name screen, what I want to show you here is the picture that came up when we did a search, so that we know what this individual looks like. There'll be certain demographics we can provide about that individual. So again, we're looking at very precise information about the people that we think we might be looking for. When, another lingo here, but field reporting data resolution. And all that simply means is, when you inquire on John Smith, do you have the John Smith you're looking for? So in our database, we have several Smiths, and when we select one of those, we're going to get back the Smith we're looking for, or decide they're not in our database at all. The next thing that's important with names and addresses is, if we've already collected data and we have to write several, there might be more than one case associated with this event, we don't have to go through that search process all over again. As soon as we start typing in the last name there, the letter C, down at the bottom it's going to tell us all the names we've already inquired against in this tour that had the letter C to start their last name with. So we can be very, very quick and very precise in the report writing. This is a terrific management tool. This says to the command staff, here are all the open events requiring police reports for the officers I'm responsible for. So they too can be following up to say, hey, we need to make sure we get those reports done before you leave. For field reporting to work, there has to be certain things in places, and the city of Des Moines has done a terrific job in getting those things in place. First of all, we have our own private radio network, 800 megahertz. The IT department has done a terrific job with the extensive city wireless network and a regional GIS map. Those are two important tools that allow this technology to work. We have to be able to authenticate to the network that our police officers are our police officers. They have to be able to prove who they are. We can't have just everybody going into this network. So we've put some technology in place to do that. We have data encryption. So you've heard a lot about hackers and data snifters and things like that. This data encryption is approved by the FBI, and it's as good as there is available in the marketplace today. We have a robust records management system and an outstanding communication center for our dispatch system. Just to give you an idea about the records management system, it's used by the vendor is Intergraph, and we use them for both records management and dispatch. But we have several other agencies using our records management system as well. But the power of this data is in these statistics under how much data is in the system. We have close to 600,000 name records in our system, 330,000 vehicle records, and on and on. The power of that is being able to query that data at the point you need it. And the point you need it is when you're out on an event. That data is also used for crime reporting to state and federal governments. It's used for our case management in-house, and of course crime analysis. Very powerful tool that we're going to make available to the officer in the squad car. The dispatch system, again, it's an Intergraph product. We dispatch approximately 220,000 events annually for the Des Moines Police and Fire Department. And Polk County Sheriff's Office has a communication center that runs through our servers and software, and they dispatch for some 40 police, fire, and EMS agencies. So again, a large, dynamic, robust system environment that's being used by more than the city of Des Moines. We think the time is right. We have a records management system, dispatch systems that are data rich. The city fiber and wireless communication infrastructure has grown and improved. The support of the GIS for the dispatch map is very important. Our vendor has developed the application that meets our operational needs. We're serving a significant regional public safety community, and perhaps not least, there's an availability of grant funding to do all of this. How does automated field reporting make us better? This system environment will make our officers more timely, more accurate, and better informed. And that is a huge statement. Just for purposes of showing where the approximate cost, we're still working on contracts, and we'll be coming back to you with those contracts. But the funding is through some JAG grants and some E911 budget.
And does this cover the cost of the full project?
Yes.
In year one? Well, what's the ongoing cost after year one cost?
We don't have those developed yet, but the maintenance, we're paying Intergraph approximately $200,000 a year in maintenance. We expect those costs to go approximately $220,000, so about a $20,000 increase in software maintenance costs. We're not adding any hardware to this environment. We have all the hardware pieces in place. What we're adding is additional functionality in software.
Do you have any way of measuring the efficiency that's provided to the department?
We will develop some time metrics, but we haven't done that yet. We've really been on the front end of analyzing how this best meets our needs, so we haven't looked at the back end of how we're going to measure operations with it as of yet.
Was this a bid project or a negotiated one with a single vendor Intergraph?
This will be negotiated with a single vendor.
Are there no other vendors out there that supply this sort of product?
There are other vendors, but we would have to change out our CAD system and our records management system as well. You want this to be an integrated environment and not bring another vendor in that would have to build interfaces.
So does Intergraph supply you with other product now?
Yes, they are our CAD dispatch center vendor and our records management system vendor.
Okay. I would like to hear an answer back on Mr. Coleman's question regarding ongoing costs to maintain this system.
We will develop those.
And I might just add to that if I could. I think the question or the concern that we always have up here is when you have a negotiated agreement, how do you keep it in check? It's almost as if you've given them an open checkbook.
Our checkbook.
Our checkbook, yeah. So just some discussion about how you see that working then.
You want me now?
No.
Okay.
When you respond to them.
Okay. Thank you.
It's very impressive.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. All right, now we're going to get an update, further update. Captain Waymeyer, I think, is going to tell us about police in-car video cameras, I think.
I am. Good morning. Steve Waymeyer. I'm in charge of the Patrol Services Bureau for the Police Department. In 2010, we started a review of our in-car camera project, our systems, and we started a project to expand the use of the in-car cameras. What I have here is a brief overview of our history with the in-car camera systems, the overall project, why we chose the vendor we did, and how we're incorporating that now into our patrol fleet. Purpose of in-car cameras, in-car video cameras, is to review citizen complaints. It saves numerous hours for us to be able to pull up a video of a traffic stop, to review a complaint that a citizen might have on the actions of the officer. Because we find that in traffic stops, everybody reacts differently. It's a traumatic experience for some people, and for us to be able to view that incident and also invite the citizen in to view the incident makes the situation go away more often than not. We also use video as evidence in court cases. We have to make sure that it's encrypted so that it can't be changed, and we track it just like we would a knife used in a crime. We use it to limit civil liability much in the same way that we use to answer citizen concerns and complaints. And we also use it, we keep certain incidents on tape and use that in training to let officers see the right way or the wrong way in some instances to react to a situation. We began using cameras in our cars in 2003. The cameras were only assigned at that point in our traffic unit. That's because our traffic unit conducts the largest percentage of traffic stops. And as the chief said, these cameras are limited in their scope. They have been limited in their scope just to what's happening in front of the cameras. And most of the activity that our patrol officers do is away from the cars. So we put them in our traffic cars. Also, the systems have been very difficult to manage. And that's because they had to manually be downloaded and manually stored, and for that to be expanded to patrol wasn't very realistic. 2010, we started a project to see if we could expand the system that we currently have. The goal of the project was to identify a vendor, identify funding, equip all traffic vehicles with new cameras, and also add cameras to our patrol fleet because we hadn't done that to this point. A committee of officers was selected to test and evaluate several different vendors. We chose, we had 10 different vendors present to us. We tested in cars 5 different systems, and we chose Coban. The Coban system was selected mostly for its equipment and its ease of use. Also because of their ability to manage the system from afar. We're wireless in this, so if we have a problem with one of our systems, they will go on and remotely address that issue. Features of the Coban system, why we selected it. The wireless download, as I just talked a little bit about their ability to wirelessly address any situations. The wireless download, instead of the officers having to pull out manually the disk and store that, every time they pull into a hotspot in the city, that video is automatically downloaded into our server. That can be at any of the hotspots, and currently there's 200 hotspots in the city of Des Moines. So if they pull in and stop in a hotspot, it will automatically start the download. If they drive away, it will stop until they reach a hotspot again. Hotspots are obviously in the police station and also in our traffic station, so anytime they come in to end their tour of duty, the download of that video is automatic. The system also has a fail-safe hard drive, which is very similar to a black box in an airplane. The video is constantly recording whether the officers turned it on or not, and that records over itself. It doesn't save unless the system is activated. If something were to happen that the officer wasn't able to activate the system, we could go in and manually pull that video out. It doesn't come with audio, but it does come with video. So if there's an accident, we'll go in and pull that video out. Or if something were to happen, we had an incident in a parking lot where somebody ran into one of our cars when the officer was inside. Because it was constantly recording, we went in and pulled that video out. There's also a pre-record function that allows, when the officer activates his or her lights, the camera system's turned on at that point. But it also goes back up to 60 seconds prior to that and includes that in the file. So if a car were to have a violation in front of an officer, turns the lights on, without that pre-record function, we wouldn't capture that violation on film, but now we do. The only issue with that is the audio doesn't start until the officer activates the system. So we'll have video for a short time, and then the audio will start. And I have an example of that I'll show you here in a few minutes. The last and one of the more important functions we think is the wireless microphone. The wireless microphone goes up to 1,200 feet. On this wireless microphone, there's a button. We can activate the system. So if the officer's out of the car and decides he wants an audio or a video file, he'll push the button on the microphone and it will start recording at that point. And you can do this from inside a building to create an audio file, or just in front of the vehicle if you want an audio and a video file. The limitations, obviously the video is only going to be directly in front of the car. The cameras at this point don't rotate back and forth. And audio is only available if the system is activated. We'll have video constant, but audio is only available when the system is activated. That's also a good thing. That means that we're not going to capture an officer's personal phone call unless the system has been turned on. So there's some privacy issues there as well. The new system is making it possible to expand into our patrol fleet. And like I said, the automatic wireless download is a big part of that, and the ability for the vendor to remotely link to the system to troubleshoot any issues. We have a server specifically for storage of these videos. And then this system is expandable so that we can add, I'll talk about here at the end, we're going to add some personal body cameras to this system. Because it's expandable, we think that it will be viable for years to come. I have a few examples. We talked about incident review if a person wants to make a complaint against an officer. I have 3 videos here I'll show you. This first video is from our old system. The picture is not real clear, but it's a good example of a traffic stop involving one of our traffic officers. This citizen, like I said before, when people get stopped, it's sometimes is a traumatic experience, and we don't hold that against anyone. But everybody has a different perception of what happened. Some things I'd like you to listen for here is this citizen called and complained on the officer for 17 different things. And some of those included that he wouldn't let her get out of the vehicle. He was very, very incredibly rude. His attitude was gruff. He made the baby cry. He acted like a bear. He was loud and snappy. Made her children afraid of all police because of his attitude. And that she was very polite and worried about the effect this was going to have on her kids. This video was reviewed. Anytime there's a complaint, we pull the video up and we review it. The lieutenant who reviewed this contacted the person, invited her to come in and watch the video, and she became even more upset at that point and wouldn't return our phone calls. So that was the end of this complaint. But I just want you to watch for those things. Especially watch for Officer Glade waves at the child.
Ma'am, you were speeding 40 in a 30 zone. Your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance.
Driver's license is in the trunk of my purse.
Okay. Once you get the registration and proof of insurance first. There's your registration.
Okay, that's the old card. That's the old card.
I need to see it currently.
I believe it's in my purse with the rest of it.
Okay. Here you are, ma'am. See your driver's license, please. That's fine. That's the new one. Change colors on it. Okay, I'll give this back to you, ma'am. You still live at 1215 Douglas?
Yes, I do.
I'll be right back with you. Have a seat in your vehicle. Okay, ma'am, this is for speeding 40 in a 30 zone with $87 fine signature. No, ma'am, it's not. 30 miles an hour. Posted in the 1200 block of Euclid and also in the 600 block of Euclid.
Your name on this?
Yes, it is.
Because I would have talked to you about the way you wouldn't let me get out of my car to get my license.
I just wanted to get your registration and your proof of insurance first.
Your driver's license first. I asked you to let me out of my car to get it, and you wouldn't even let me out of my car. So I'll discuss that with someone else.
Okay, have a good day.
That's just an example of what we talked about earlier, of how we can use these videos to our advantage. And we stop a lot of cars. We get a lot of those types of complaints, and a majority of them we find were handled just in that way. We talked also about audio evidence and how we create files and how the microphone can activate the system from up to 1,200 feet away. This is an example of an audio file created by an officer that was at the scene of a domestic inside an apartment and decided he wanted to start his audio file. So he pushed the button on his microphone. And the microphones are worn by the officers. Don't pay attention as much to what's being said, just to the fact that we have this capability now to create an audio file for use later.
So he pushed you in the back. Which ball is it?
I don't know what he did, but somehow my mouth he pushed me in the back of the head, and then I turned around and I did hit him because he couldn't have put his hands on me in the first place. If I asked you to leave, why would you come back to the door and shove me in the back of the head? And then my daughter said you're watching all of it.
You can hear the clarity in the recording, and again, this isn't for what's being said, just to show you the capability of activating the system from inside a building from quite a distance away.
Yep, and you mentioned 1,200 feet from the car to where you can actually pick up the audio.
1,200 feet.
Impressive.
Does the officer now wear like a remote device or something that triggers it, or how?
Yes, the officer, there's a charging port in the car. The officers take the microphone out of that and they'll wear it on their person, it's a small device, but it has a button on it. And at the end of the shift, they'll put it back in the car and it will recharge.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more video quickly to show you. This is if you can see the clarity of this. This is a video file made by an officer with the new system. We talked about the pre-record function. So when I start this video, you're not going to hear sound. You'll actually see the violator go by before you hear the sound. Because again, when we turn the lights on, it activates the system, and then it pre-records the event. So when you get to the point that the officer activated the system, the sound actually starts there. So everything before the sound is a pre-recording. And if you listen, the officer's creating a file for evidence. He talks about why he's stopping it, a description of the vehicle, license plate, location. That's all done for court. He's not talking to anybody but himself and the camera. Here's the pre-recording. The ladder truck that goes by right there is the car he's going to stop.
Move over to the front. No seatbelt. On the curbside lane. Talking on the cell phone.
Or University.
It's like University.
It's University heading west.
Be straight ahead of the.
There's Mercy on the left.
Here. Okay, go straight. Stop it here. Come to the intersection. Every out license plate 818, San Ocean Yankee.
You can see the difference in clarity of the video. You were even going to be able to read the license plate on this vehicle, whereas the old camera system, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Why did he pull that truck over?
His seatbelt, and he was talking on the cell phone, but I think it was the seatbelt he actually stopped him for.
Oh, okay.
Through the after our project was started, we initially bought 13 cameras. We bought 5 in patrol, or 5 in traffic, and 8 in patrol. This was our first. That was in 2010. That was our first effort to put cameras in patrol cars, and we were able to manage them effectively. The storage of the videos went smooth and seamless. We had no issues, and because of that, we expanded our fleet up to 30 in patrol, and all of our traffic cars are now equipped with these new cameras. We bought a total of 43 cameras. The last 22 of the cameras was installed last week in patrol, and there is a rep coming today or tomorrow to finish the installation, and we'll be up and running with 30 vehicles in our patrol fleet. So roughly 15 per shift, give or take some that are down for maintenance, will be available to us. It's going to be a great tool, and the officers themselves are looking forward to it as well.
How many of the old system is still out there?
We're discontinuing the use of those. We have one or two still in traffic, but we're all going to be on this new system, Mr. Mayor.
How many of those did you have beginning in 2003?
I believe we had 13. All of our traffic cars were equipped with the old system.
The technology you've got with the new system is significantly better than what you've had in the past, the points you've made here.
Yes, it is. It's not just the camera itself, but the ability to store and make copies is quite a bit better than it was.
The audio system, the ability to hear conversation 1,200 feet away, that's new as well, isn't it? Yeah.
And the ability to remotely activate the system
different
is new.
than what we've had in the past.
Cost of these units was $6,250. Total cost of 43 units was $268,750. That's all paid for. It's all, the reason we're bringing this is just to thank you for the opportunity to install these in the car and let you know what the money bought. We're not going to stop there, though. We chose this system because it was expandable. We have these, this is called the company name is VView. That's what that first one is. It's a body camera. It's compatible. It's about the size of a cell phone, and it's worn on the officer's lapels, and they activate it by just flipping a shutter down. We've purchased 8 of these for our SROs. All of our SROs are going to be wearing these, and it's compatible with the co-band system. This is going to prove to be an effective tool to help parents understand what's going on when their kids are arrested inside the schools. And again, we'll do all the same things that we talked about. It's going to create a video evidence log. It's going to help against citizen concerns and protect against civil liability. Along with these camera systems, eventually they're going to get better. We're going to get better. You've heard of 4G technology and phones. As that gets into the policing world, we'll be able to watch live video feeds. This system has that capability because it's automatic download. We'll be able to watch live video feeds from a patrol car at some point in the very near future.
From a command position.
From a command position. The chief, if the chief wants to watch a incident, she'll be able to pull that up from her office on her computer. Not yet, but we're close. This system allows for that as soon as technology catches up to it.
Wow.
Any questions?
I guess I have one. I love it, and I think it will be very good for our citizens and the police officers. It scares me a little bit, and maybe, Mark, you could even assure me that the downside is if there's a malfunction or officers don't implement it correctly, it almost creates, if we were going to court or there was some other problem, all of us deal with a whole bunch of people that think the world revolves around conspiracy theories that the chief deleted that file at the police station. I mean, what kind of training are we in? Is there a whole set of procedures that officers are going to be held accountable to? Because I worry that as much help as it will be, there will be times where it hurts us as well because we didn't implement it right.
We have a policy, and what's important to remember is if the officer turns their lights on, it's activated. They can't not activate the system if they turn their lights on. The remote activation, the pushing the button, that's all done by the officer, and it's hard to say if you're inside a building you have to push the button. But we might come to that point. We have a policy of when it's to be used, and the officer has to turn it off when they're done, They know that too. And we always have the ability to pull up the video in the fail-safe mode because it just continually writes over itself. So if we have an incident that the officer didn't activate it for and we want to watch the video, we'll go pull the hard drive out and download the video that way.
How much does it record before it starts recording?
18 to 20 hours.
Oh, so you'd get a whole shift and more. So if
Yes. And our cars aren't used continually because we have an overlap, so we'll get that as well.
I have a question. The old system was activated. The old system that you had, as far as the cameras in the cars, they were activated when you turn the lights on only.
Yes.
And then they were pushed back, I think, 30 seconds or something like that. You
Yes.
retrieve 30 seconds of video. With this new system here and the system on the reports that was spoken to earlier, are they integrated? In other words, and follow me on this, OWI case, because those are the cases I know best. OWI case, you're writing the report, you tag somehow the incident on the video, and we're going wireless. Does the video go with the report, and how does that work? I mean,
No, the video doesn't go with the report. The video is, all of our supervisors have the ability to review video. They don't have the ability to change it in any way. We only have one place for that in the department. So if an incident happens in front of say we had a chase last night and an accident as a result of it, the supervisors, those immediate supervisors will review that, and then that video is stored in our patrol headquarters unit for future use.
Okay. Because one of the problems when I was at the county attorney's office was getting those videos in a timely fashion. I mean, the old VHS tapes and all that jazz, but this will hopefully improve that system a little bit.
How they handle court cases now is we'll get a request for a tape. It'll be a formal request. It'll be checked out just like it was evidence, either by the officer or Polk County Attorney's Office, and then it will be turned back in at the conclusion of it. So we're not going to have video that's out there on the web unless we want it out there.
But it's a digital format as opposed to VHS.
Yes, it's digital.
So it's going to be sent electronically.
Can we put it on YouTube? Everything?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, we'll still send it over in a disc. But I don't know if any of you remember the accident that happened in Iowa City with the Iowa football player that ran into a pickup truck.
That was on YouTube.
That was on YouTube. And the officer actually videotaped that with his cell phone from the screen. Now, we have that in our policy to protect against that. There's only one way to release video under policy, and that's through patrol headquarters.
Good to know.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Manager, did you want to make a comment?
Well, I really appreciate the questions from council. You've asked questions about procedures and policies, the maintenance cost of these systems as we go forward in procurement, and we'll look at all those. You brought us home on each one of those. They're great questions. But I do want to state the obvious, and that is that these technologies that we've heard about this morning, the two, the automated field reporting and the camera and audio systems, really, it's a great example of how technology can make us more efficient and more effective, and it's so important when we're looking at budget difficulties and cutbacks here and there to use technology in this way. Police are doing a great job. They're sort of ahead of the curve, I think. I'd like to get the rest of the organization up to speed in terms of what the police have been able to do. They've had the good fortune of having grant funds, which has expedited their program a bit, but it's a great example of it, and it's just so important that we do these things. When we're stressed in so many other areas of the budget, I think this will really change the way police work is done here in our city. And I really congratulate the chief and her staff for bringing it forward. I just wanted to say that. Thank you, Mayor, for the chance to make that.
All right, let's move forward, and we're going to have a quick discussion on the operating and the capital budget. Alan.
Mayor, members of council, Alan McKinley, Deputy City Manager. First of all, you should have in front of you a CIP document. We got that finished up last week. We are working on the operating budget feverishly to get that done and out to you. Last workshop, we received several questions on tax rates and valuations and comparisons and things of that nature. So we thought we would do that as a specific workshop presentation, since there's large volumes of data, and would be helpful for you to see it up the screen on in a PowerPoint color presentation. So we wanted to walk through that with you this morning, and we'll just, let's see if it works this way. Let's start over again. There we go. First thing we wanted to question was about the consolidated tax rate and the history of it, of the various components that make up the consolidated tax rate. There's a lot of green and red arrows. Red is an up arrow, green's going down, and the arrows, even if it's just a penny difference from the prior year, we put an arrow in whether it was up or down. So just for example, the assessor, the third from the bottom row, you'll see it change a penny, it gets an arrow going up. But it gives you an idea of how the tax rate has changed over the 5-year period listed here, and a couple other points of interest or for you to understand. We have a variety of different school districts covered in the city of Des Moines, so this is just using the Des Moines Public School District. There is parts of the city in Johnston, Carlisle, Urbandale, I believe, and some other places, so other school districts. So this probably covers the largest portion of our area in the city is Des Moines Public Schools.
Alan, can I just make one other comment? If you look at the DART tax rate in FY 10 and 11, you'll see some reductions from prior years. Part of that reduction is attributable to funds that you provide to DART, which allows that rate for our taxpayers to be lower. It's just a good thing that you've done with your park and ride revenues, which really must be used for transit purposes, but it's a good way to favorably impact the taxpayers in Des Moines. Not a lot, but a little bit that you've moved it in a downward direction.
Correct.
What else would be interesting, Alan, then is another line down there that would talk about the assessed value, because the reason some of these rates have gone down is because the assessed value's gone up.
We have some assessed value information coming up in a future slide that'll help you give you some information. Now, we don't have FY12 obviously available. We can tell you, or I can tell you, that we do have one number, that's Des Moines, for FY12. That'll be 1658. But we don't have any of the other ones because they're still in the process of adopting budgets and establishing rates. The all other, by the way, is actually the state collects a very small amount in property taxes. I can't remember what there's two rates that I just combined into that one.
Some agriculture thing, isn't it?
There's an agriculture, I don't remember the disease, but it's brucella or something for pigs, something like that.
Probably something for county fairs.
Is that something that we should request to have Des Moines exempted, since we don't have farm?
I think the rate is .0037. It's less than it's a third of a penny that's in the state one, and I can't remember.
4 mils.
And then the other one is, I think it might be an ag extension rate as well. I don't remember exactly what it is. I thought it'd be interesting to give you, these are the city tax rates, FY11 of the 10 largest cities in the state. Just a couple of points of interest. First of all, over on the right, there's 944 municipal tax rates across the state. The city of Des Moines is the 96th highest. And you'll see city of Des Moines is about right in the middle there, with a range of these cities of $10.03 all the way up to $18.26. The asterisks represent cities that have a sales tax in place, and more times than not, at least a portion of the sales tax is used to reduce property taxes. So these cities, in addition to having higher rates than us or slightly lower rates than us, also have sales tax
but
receipts.
there's also, you need a triple star.
For stormwater.
Dubuque and Council Bluffs and maybe Waterloo have casinos.
Yeah.
We need to find the municipalities that have casinos that are the licenses to the casinos.
That the money goes to their
We
operating
can
budget?
certainly collect that data.
It does, doesn't it? Go to the
Well, I think we'll check it. I think you're right.
You will notice that there is a double asterisk up there for Sioux City because Sioux City is in two different counties, Woodbury and Plymouth, and I believe the sales tax is in place in Woodbury but not in Plymouth County. So parts of Sioux City does not have a sales tax in place.
Most of it's Woodbury.
Most of it's in Woodbury. Here's some information on assessed values from FY8 through FY12, FY12 being the most, we just received data this past month. And this is the assessed valuations. So for commercial, that would also be the taxable valuation, but showing you the annual increase. And not surprising, in the even years, you will see typically smaller increases because those are not revaluation years. The odd numbered years are the revaluation years.
You said commercial, that's the actual valuation. Is it 100% or like 97 point something now?
We're at 100%, but I think back a couple, 3 years ago, it may have been at 0.997.
Yeah.
Maybe even farther than 5 years ago, it was down at 0.97, but it's virtually run at 99 or 100%.
But to Mr. Coleman's question, the numbers you're looking at here are assessed values, so you haven't applied the taxable value or the rollback impact in these numbers, correct?
Now, the assessed value is an important number to us in a calculation that we provided last week for our debt margin.
Yeah.
It's not computed on taxable value, it's computed on assessed value. I believe Council asked a question about per capita taxation. Councilman Coleman did. We chose these 6 entities. We basically took their property tax askings in FY11 and divided it by their most recent census population number, excluding the 2010 census. We do have some special census for some of those communities, but this does not use 2010 census data. So on a per capita basis, Des Moines is at 547, Windsor Heights at the highest at 909.
And how did you calculate that again?
I pulled data from the state of Iowa on the budget certification forms and took total property taxes to be generated and divided it by the population. We have another slide that gets into the residential in particular. The next one is average residential taxation. So in this case, we went to the Polk County Assessor's website, and you can delve into their website and obtain average residential valuation for any particular year, probably for the last 5 or 6 years. So I went and obtained what the average residential value is in each of these 6 communities, and then applied the rollback and their tax rate. And this is the city tax rate only, not the consolidated tax rate. And then computed what the average residential tax bill is for each of those communities. Again, Des Moines is this time not at the lowest, but is second lowest. We're probably talking about $120,000 average assessed value in Des Moines, and in Clive and West Des Moines, it's north of $200,000. Clive might be at $220,000 or $230,000 average assessed value. There's been lots of discussion about commercial property and some proposals that have been made public in the last several months, actually probably going back 6 months. We were trying to calculate a variety of proposals, one being a 60% rollback rate a 65% rollback rate for commercial property. At one time, we were looking at both commercial and industrial property. We've tried to use the valuations that are the most current. So up until about early January, we only had the 2009 valuations that were applicable to the current fiscal year. We utilized commercial valuations that just came out that will be applicable for the FY12 budget. So we've calculated the commercial property taxes generated under the current system with 100% 100% rollback or zero rollback, 100% value, and then under the proposed, and then showed you what the gap is or the amount of taxes that are going to be potentially impacted by such a proposal of a 60%. So it's rough, this is in millions of dollars, so it's about a $26.6 million impact to the city. And we tried to break it up between operating, debt service, and our tax increment fund. It's a very complicated issue, and I think we've talked before about just to have the need to be able to be at the table, to be able to discuss potential impacts. In the case of tax increment, we have lots of development agreements that are tied to the amount of property taxes that a developer may be paying sometime in the future. Obviously, if the valuation goes down, we're not going to pay the same amount in a grant to them if they're paying less in taxes. That would have to all be probably renegotiated, multiple agreements, and you can imagine across the state with all the different tax increment districts that exist. But our current impact is that there's about $26.6 million of potential commercial property tax payments that would have to be addressed or looked at and assessed in one way or the other.
Can I just make a follow-up point to this? And I think a lot of people feel this number is so staggering that it's not likely it would find its way into final legislation, but who knows? And so many people say, well, maybe they will take a step in this direction. Well, a step in that direction, let's just say it's 10% of that number. That's still $2.6 million of loss to the city in our budget, which is a huge number on top of the kind of forecast that we're looking at. So we really need to be diligent as discussions go forward. Alan said it just exactly right. It is not a matter of trying to say somebody's right or wrong. It's a matter of trying to get some logic injected into the debate so that as we go forward, if there's going to be replacement revenues, that can be identified in a way that is sustainable going forward. But just keep in mind, this is a huge impact. It seems likely this won't happen. We have to be diligent on that point. But even a small step in this direction can have rather profound effects on our budget, so we need to watch it.
Can I just add, and I agree with everything that's been said here, but I think the important thing that we've not discussed yet is, and I think we've had the discussion privately, but our recommendation solutions. What would we see as alternatives that should be considered, and how would that, what would be the fiscal impact of that? And I think that's really important that as we highlight this, and I think it would be important also to list those contracts that we currently have or those agreements with the Nationwides and the other major corporations to say, look how this would be impacted as well. So I think that, you know, we lay out based upon what they're discussing right now, what the impact would be, but these are some solutions and options that we'd like to have them consider.
Okay.
That's the end of this presentation. Just as a reminder to you, though, we continue to welcome questions related to the capital improvements program in particular. The documents come out, and really that document is produced by the Research and Budget Office, in particular Kurt Ruckles, and the lead and in charge of that. He's out in the audience there. He works with all the departments in helping to prepare that document, update the information, update the narratives. There's some 300 pages that are probably listed in there. We are working this week on hopefully getting the operating budget out to you by this Friday, but we'll see how we can proceed in that regard.
Thank you, Alan. Before we open this up for quick public comment, I do want to note that this last weekend was a busy weekend, but Saturday night there was a joint East Des Moines and South Des Moines Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there was a citizen that was awarded for sort of a lifetime worth of work in his community, in his faith-based community. A leader in the business area, and also boards and commissions, and now a city council member. Citizen of the Year this year was Bob Mahaffey. Let's give him a big hand. Bob, congratulations, and with that, let's open it up. Does anybody have any public comments? All right, having none, we'll sit adjourned. There is not a city council meeting this evening, but thank you all for attending. We'll see you next week for another budget hearing and an exciting city council meeting to follow. Thank you.